What does yesterday's junk mail, or its cigarette campaigns or urine tests, have to do with American capitalism in the present? Far more than we might have imagined, the splendid essays in this volume suggest. Each transports us to a specific site spanning the 1780s Caribbean to the mid-1990s World Wide Web, and each reveals the centrality of surveillance to business practices and economic life in the United States. The informant networks mobilized by both plantations and Pinkertons, the watchful practices of long-gone nightclubs and hotels, and the customer data captured by the earliest feedback surveys and digital cookies all pay dividends here. History often humbles claims of the unprecedented. This collection testifies once again to the importance of historical work in clarifying our present. Surveillance capitalism, as a term of both analysis and approbation, has captured the contemporary imagination. Coined as recently as 2014, it responds to the seemingly sudden dominance of an economic model based on expropriating personal data. Yet its logics can be spied in the 18th century monitoring of enslaved people by watchmen, and in the Gilded Age trade in personal names and addresses. To these examples, we can add multifarious attempts before and since by owners, employers, business people, entrepreneurs, inventors, and corporations to profit by channeling and commoditizing human behavior. It means that those who would pronounce surveillance capitalism a fresh force in the world have some explaining to do. The claim to the new is nonetheless understandable. The pace of technological change, the incentives for commercial interests to pursue and harvest personal data, and the seeming inability of U.S. political and regulatory systems to meaningfully intervene have ensured that what goes under the banner of surveillance capitalism compels our attention right now. Even as Americans weigh the promise of digital tracing by giant tech corporations like Google and Apple in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, we fret over data mining, social media profiling, targeted advertising, prediction markets, behavioral nudging, and algorithmic bias. Digital age citizens are just beginning to reckon with the implications for individual privacy, social justice, and democratic life. What is relatively new is the public focus on the threat such commercial practices pose. Recognition of the extent to which private companies have been in the business of monitoring individual behavior and data has arrived rather late in the United States, especially when compared to long-standing concerns about government surveillance. The fact that the state and private companies have regularly worked hand in hand to do such watching is yet another relatively recent realization.